At 4:37 a.m., the crash echoed through Willow Creek Estates like a thunderclap, jolting me awake. I stumbled outside in my slippers, the crisp Colorado air biting my skin, to find my hand-built gazebo reduced to kindling, a black Mercedes SUV embedded in the wreckage. The driver, 21-year-old Connor Blake, reeked of bourbon and arrogance, slurring into his phone for his mother, Margaret Blake, the HOA president who arrived before the cops, already screaming that my gazebo was an unpermitted hazard, and I owed her for her son's car. The smell of radiator fluid mixed with her cloying rose perfume as she waved violation notices like a weapon, demanding I pay $30,000 for the damage her drunk kid caused. By the end of this saga, Margaret's reign of terror would collapse harder than her son's Mercedes, and the tow truck hauling it away would be the least of her worries. If you've got an HOA nightmare, drop it in the comments. What would you do if your HOA blamed you for their kid's destruction? And where are you reading from? A dream turned nightmare. I'm Nathan Harper, 57, a retired structural engineer who spent 32 years designing Colorado's bridges and high-rises. After my wife, Emily, lost her battle with pancreatic cancer 2 years ago, I bought a modest home in Willow Creek Estates, a serene suburb where pines whispered and neighbors still waved. This house was my refuge, a place to rebuild through sweat and precision. I invested $12,000 in a backyard gazebo, cedar beams, hand-carved lattice, and solar-powered lanterns that glowed like fireflies. Every joist was level, every screw torqued to spec. Saturday mornings smelled of sawdust and fresh coffee, my hands crafting something beautiful again. Then Margaret Blake decided I didn't belong. Margaret, 52, drove a polished Range Rover and wore a smile sharp as a scalpel. Her husband, Douglas, was a county zoning commissioner, and their son, Connor, treated his Mercedes like a missile. Margaret had ruled the HOA for 8 years, wielding bylaws like a dictator's scepter. Friends got winks. Foes got fines. 6 months ago, she targeted me. It started with a knock. Margaret stood on my porch, clipboard in hand, her perfume overwhelming. Nathan, your gazebo exceeds height restrictions by 4 inches. I'm issuing a $2,000 fine and a 30-day removal order. I'd studied the bylaws. Structures under 14 feet were compliant. My gazebo was 13 feet 8 inches, approved by a licensed architect. I showed her the plans, stamped and notarized. She smirked. Plans can be misinterpreted. The board will decide. I produced my property survey proving the gazebo sat dead center on my lot. She waved it off. Surveys aren't gospel. Expect a hearing. The harassment kicked into gear. My mailbox clanged daily with violation notices. Grass too long by a half inch, lanterns excessively bright, my mailbox non-compliant for being charcoal instead of black. The metallic scrape became a psychological alarm clock. Neighbors suffered too. Mrs. Kim was fined for her Lunar New Year decorations. The Garcias got hit for unauthorized porch planters. Meanwhile, Connor's Mercedes roared through the streets at 3 a.m., and Margaret's oversized fountain spilled onto public property. No fines for the Blakes, naturally. The crash that lit the fuse December 3rd, 4:37 a.m. The crash shook my windows. Outside, in flannel pajamas and work boots, I found Connor's Mercedes accordion folded into my gazebo. Connor wobbled, phone pressed to his ear, muttering, "Mom, I screwed up bad." Margaret materialized in minutes, dressed like she'd been waiting for the call, snapping photos of my property instead of checking her son's pulse. Officer Daniels arrived to Margaret's performance, crocodile tears, a folder thick with violation notices, and claims my gazebo created a blind spot. The air reeked of antifreeze and her rose perfume as she pointed at me. "This structure's been illegal for months. Nathan should pay for Connor's repairs." Watching her pin her son's drunk driving on my legal gazebo, I realized this wasn't just harassment. It was a calculated attack to crush a neighbor who wouldn't bow. She'd picked the wrong engineer. The police report Daniels filed made my blood boil. Vehicle struck unpermitted structure. 3 words that twisted reality. Margaret had arrived with a dossier of my alleged infractions. Grass length, lantern wattage, mailbox shade, claiming my gazebo was a documented hazard. Behind her, Connor swayed, smelling like a distillery. The kid could barely stand, but my stationary gazebo was the villain. 2 days later, Margaret's insurance company demanded I cover $30,000 in Mercedes repairs, citing property owner liability for non-compliant structures. I laughed and hung up. But their formal letter arrived, doubling down. Time for my counterattack. My insurance agent, Carla Rivera, arrived skeptical, her tape measure clicking like a metronome as she walked my property line. After an hour, she snapped her folder shut. "Your gazebo's 5 feet inside your property, Nathan. The Mercedes was speeding, likely 45 mph in a 25 zone. We're denying their claim. From my engineering days, I knew Colorado law. Property owners aren't liable for accidents caused by legal structures. Margaret's legal argument was flimsier than balsa wood, the HOA kangaroo court. Margaret called an emergency HOA meeting for December 10th. Gazebo removal and liability assessment. Walking into the Willow Creek Community Center felt like entering a lion's den. 15 residents sat under flickering fluorescents, the air heavy with burnt coffee and Margaret's perfume. She'd prepared a PowerPoint titled Community Safety Crisis, blowing up photos of my gazebo's imperfections, a loose screw, a faded stain, into poster-sized accusations. Her expert witness, her cousin Larry, a car salesman, claimed my gazebo obstructed visibility, causing Connor's accident. I stood for my 5-minute rebuttal. "Margaret, your son was drunk." My gazebo didn't move. She cut me off. "Your time's up, Mr. Harper." The vote was 5-1 to fine me $3,000 and order gazebo removal in 30 days. Only Mrs. Kim voted for me, her eyes avoiding Margaret's glare. As Margaret's triumphant laugh echoed across the parking lot, she didn't know I'd recorded the meeting on my phone. Reviewing the audio later, I caught her fatal slip. In 2017, she'd signed my gazebo's approval at the annual meeting, calling it an asset to the community. Now, it was a clear danger. Game on. Building the case that night, retired cop Tom Delgado knocked, his coffee steaming in the December chill. "Margaret's pulled this before, Nathan." 3 years ago, she forced the Lopezes to remove their patio over a 2-inch setback violation. They moved to avoid her wrath. She needs fine revenue. Her landscaping cost $15,000 last year, all from HOA penalties. Tom's cop instincts cut deep. "This isn't about your gazebo. Connor's DUI means legal fees, repair costs, insurance hikes. She's shifting blame to you." He handed me a folder. Connor's rap sheet. 2 DUIs, a reckless driving charge, all swept under the rug by Douglas's zoning connections. Margaret's first mistake was documenting her corruption in HOA minutes, creating a paper trail of contradictions. I opened my laptop, channeling my engineering precision to build a case. On December 15th, certified mail brought Margaret's ultimatum: remove the gazebo or face $600 daily fines. The same day, Douglas's zoning office sent a notice about my unpermitted structure posing public safety risks. Merry Christmas from the Blake corruption dynasty. Christmas morning, while others opened gifts, I dug through county records. Margaret's fountain extended 20 inches over her property line, 4 times the violation she accused me of. The same licensed surveyor's report confirmed my gazebo's compliance. HOA bylaws were clear. Board members must recuse themselves from family-related votes. Margaret had presided over her son's case, voiding every decision. Tom returned December 20th, grinning. My old precinct buddies dug deeper. Connor's got 3 accidents, 2 DUIs, 1 sealed juvenile charge. Douglas filed your zoning complaint the day after the crash. He's presiding over Margaret's vendetta.
I filed an ethics complaint against Douglas for $30 at the courthouse, citing conflict of interest, a criminal offense in Colorado. Next, I met attorney Lisa Torres, a specialist in HOA abuse cases, recommended by Tom. She reviewed my evidence like an engineer inspecting blueprints. "Nathan, you've got a trifecta. HOA harassment, government corruption, civil rights violations." Margaret's documented everything. Every fine, every vote, every threat. She's built our case. Lisa cross-referenced Connor's legal troubles with Margaret's violation campaigns. Mrs. Kim's fines began after Connor's first DUI. The Garcias after his reckless driving charge, mine after the gazebo crash. "This is racketeering," Lisa said. She's extorting neighbors to fund family legal bills. The neighborhood rebellion January brought Margaret's escalation. Connor's parties targeted my sleep, bass rattling my windows at 2 a.m. Violation notices multiplied. My hose improperly coiled, my doormat. Off-center, my mailbox scratched. Anonymous. Complaints to the state engineering. Board claimed I'd done unlicensed structural work. Inspector Patel spent 4 hours examining my gazebo. Textbook perfect, Mr. Harper. Whoever's filing these is wasting my time. On January 12th, Connor parked his new BMW across my driveway, smirking. "Move it, Connor," I said. "Make me, old man," he sneered. Officer Daniels arrived shrugging. "It's public property. Civil matter." I installed 4K security cameras that night, logging every incident with timestamps. Tom's advice: documentation trumps emotion in court. Mrs. Kim approached January 15th, trembling, clutching violation notices. Margaret threatened eviction if I testify against her. But I'm done being scared. The Garcias followed, fined for cultural planters. Tom Wilson shared his gnome violation story. In my garage, surrounded by sawdust and coffee, 8 neighbors formed a rebellion, their violation folders like battle scars. Lisa calculated $35,000 in fines over 2 years, funding Margaret's fountain, Connor's legal fees, and Douglas's consulting side gigs. This is organized crime with an HOA badge, Tom said. We hired Lisa for a class action lawsuit, splitting costs. Mrs. Kim's accounting skills revealed Margaret diverted 45% of HOA dues to family expenses. A public records request uncovered the jackpot. Margaret had paid $18,000 to Blake Consulting, a shell company tied to Douglas, using HOA funds. The takedown February 1st, state investigators swarmed Willow Creek. The Attorney General's office, Insurance Fraud Unit, and Civil Rights Commission knocked on Margaret's door. Tom grinned over coffee. Margaret's on administrative leave from the HOA. Douglas is suspended pending ethics charges. Margaret hired a PI, Victor Klein, to dig dirt on us. He threatened Mrs. Kim's immigration status. She's a third-generation Coloradan. His intimidation became federal witness tampering charges. The final blow came when Lisa found Margaret had guaranteed Connor's car loan with HOA assets. When the insurance company denied Connor's claim due to his DUI, they demanded $32,000 from Margaret personally. Every fine, every vote, every harassment was now evidence in multiple investigations. On March 5th, Connor cracked, confessing to prosecutors. Mom said crashing into Nathan's gazebo was perfect. She could blame him and dodge our insurance hit. His testimony elevated the case to federal RICO charges. March 15th. The Willow Creek Community Center was packed with 50 residents, Channel 7 cameras rolling. Margaret expected a docile crowd but walked into her reckoning. I projected security footage of Connor's crash, followed by Margaret's 2017 gazebo approval signature. Lisa displayed HOA financials, $70,000 diverted to Blake family projects. Reporter Sarah Chen asked, Mrs. Blake, why do your landscaping costs align with Connor's DUIs? Margaret's meltdown went viral. This is a conspiracy. Nathan Harper's brainwashed you. As sheriff's deputies cuffed her for embezzlement, harassment, and obstruction, the room erupted in applause. Mrs. Kim was elected interim president, and all fines were voided. Justice and Rebirth Margaret got 20 months in federal prison, 5 years probation, and $150,000 in restitution. Douglas lost his pension and got 15 months for conspiracy. Connor's cooperation deal cost him his BMW and college fund. Their house sold to cover legal fees, replaced by the Nguyen family, who brought homemade pho to the next block party. My gazebo was rebuilt with Margaret's seized assets, every beam laser-level perfect. The $35,000 in refunded fines funded the Emily Harper Community Garden, where Mrs. Kim's herbs grew beside the Garcia's peppers. Channel 7's expose sparked Colorado's HOA Reform Act, model legislation for 10 states. I started an HOA accountability blog, getting 100 daily hits from victims nationwide. Lisa and I launched a pro bono clinic, freeing 12 neighborhoods from corrupt boards. At Willow Creek's Spring Unity Festival, 400 neighbors celebrated, the air rich with BBQ and laughter. Margaret thought she'd crush one retiree. Instead, she wired a community to fight back, proving an engineer with a blueprint for justice can topple any suburban tyrant.